So now let us move on to the next part of our program. Again, we are going to be talking shortly about my epic battle, if you will, with David Lichtenstein, headlines, and I'm telling you, you're going to find this fascinating. We're going to play the exact interview he did with me, and I'm going to dissect it together with you. I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to fill you in on all the things that were cut out and how it changes the whole meaning of the debate and why this is a very serious flaw. I know David Lichtenstein for a half a century. He's a philanthropist, he's a Talmud Chacham, he's very bright, he's very personable, he's very talented, but he's really done some serious grievous wrong here, and it's not to me, it's to the Torah, the Olam HaTorah, and to himself. But before we get to that, so please stay tuned. And this might be the first time that this program is not only going to be heard on WSNR 628 radio, but in Yirtzeh Hashem, we might start to do this on a regular basis. We might start to put this weekly on various websites to get it out there so that the Olam HaTorah, in particular in Lakewood, but throughout the world, will be able to see and hear the Divrei Torah, the Divrei Hashkafa, and the cutting-edge political happenstances that we analyze for you, which is having a tremendous, tremendous impact on Klal Yisrael. And what we're doing is, we are creating a new cadre, a new generation of educated Torah consumers. In other words, the Olam HaTorah, people who are concerned with what's going on and want to safeguard the purity and the holiness of their children, grandchildren, Klal Yisrael. We are going to make it possible to be mefarshim in this program that people will know legislatively, legally, and a political happenstance exactly what's going on. And there was a time where I had a hotline, there was a time years ago when my program used to be broadcast and we had a very dedicated and elevated, exalted Torah aristocracy listenership from Lakewood, New Jersey. I once had somebody who's very, very, I'm not going to mention his name, he's very well known in Lakewood, as a tremendous Talmud Chacham who has corresponded for the last 40 or more years with Gedolei Yisrael in Halacha around the world. And one day he calls me up and he starts asking me questions because he was one of the listeners to the program, and I was honored. I'm going to try to be Machzah Teres Liyoshna. So, but before we get to that, to this inaugural program, the aspect of my lover's quarrel with David Lichtenstein, I want to point out to you as follows. This is on page 24 of the Jewish Press. A special report from across the pond, which is the way we refer to England. Orthodox schools come under attack for adhering to biblical morality by a popular Jewish, I assume she's certainly Orthodox, maybe even Haredi, Devorah Waxman, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And she gives us chapter and verse on what's going on in London and environs, that they're forcing yeshivas to start teaching about transgenderism, or they'll run afoul of the government. I'm not going to spend time getting into the details, but I want you to understand that what's happening in England, and what's happening is a worldwide phenomenon, that the noose is being tightened around the throats of religious people. And all these Rishoyim, starting with Mayor Koch, who I ran against in 1985, who used to say, you know, like, the sky's not falling in. What happens if we give rights to persons based on their bedroom misbehavior? So what? And now we see the so what. We prognosticated then, over 30 years ago, Gedolei Yisrael, like Rabbi Yehuda Miller, my mentor, that there's going to come a day where we're going to lose valuable privileges that we have to raise our families with Torah values. It's happening here, but it's happening more expeditiously in Europe, and it's pachad pochadim. I want to ask you a question. Let's say shchita, they almost outlawed it, I think, in Iceland, if I'm not confusing shchita and circumcision. But let's say it was shchita. They've come close to outlawing it in different places, and there's a Baruch Hashem that the Arabs picked up from us, emulated us, imitated us, and they have halal meats. Because if they were just attacking the Jews, it's one thing. But Europe is being overrun by Arabs. So when you attack Shechita, you're attacking, by extension, halal, and you've got a very, very big lobby of Arabs worldwide who become incensed by this attack and perceive it as an attack against them. So it's sort of, it augurs to our advantage. But I want to ask you a question. Let's say Chas v'Shalom Jews were living in a country in Europe and they actually outlawed Shechita. Which is worse? Outlawing Shechita so that people won't be able to eat meat? Or telling the yeshivas and the girls' schools that you must teach transgenderism and the entire Mishkav Zacha gay agenda? The answer is obvious. We can survive without meat. But we won't be able to survive with yeshivas if they maintain this kind of control. So I strongly commend you to read this article. Maybe it's in the Jewish press online. I don't know. I certainly hope they put it in. But it's very, very important reading. And therefore you should understand that when our Orthodox Jewish politicians here make kutchin you, muchin you with the liberal agenda, when Daniel Rosenthal makes sure to put on a hat when he goes to the Aguda convention, Daniel Rosenthal of Queens, who took over for the late Simanowitz, Olav HaSholem. And then when his office is called up, why did you vote for some kind of a transgender chazirai? He says, because I voted with the desires of my whole community, of the whole community, which is not just the Orthodox community. First of all, he implies that a majority of the people in Forest Hills, where he is a legislator, represents Forest Hills, that they will want this transgender chazirai. It's very questionable. And is that an excuse to promote this kind of garbage? Shame on you, Rosenthal. But this is what we're facing now. And therefore, I want to spend another few minutes talking about the unbelievable metamorphosis of the Jewish press. Under the leadership, of the new editorial leadership of Elliot Resnick, who toiled for years in the vineyards of the Jewish press, and who now ascended to the editorial position, the paper has a new look. It's snappier. It has very interesting columns, more Torah-type columns, incisive columns, like from Rav Hershel Schachter, Rosh Hashiva in YU. Speaks about Shavuos, about eating about the eating milchiks, and whether you have to eat fleishiks as well on the day of Shavuos. Tells a fascinating story about him and his wife, young wife, in the Suval Karov, where they went to eat fleishiks when in the cafeteria in YU they were only serving milchiks. But anyhow, leaving that aside, the most unbelievable thing the Jewish press is doing is they've turned back the clock some 30 years to the time under Rav Shalom Klass's leadership, where he was very accommodating in putting in articles that allowed us to communicate what the politicians and what laws they were trying to make and how they were hurting us with traditional morality. And now, with this devolving culture that we have, despite all of the terrible, terrible suffering that we've had, the Jewish press is weekly putting in articles, clearly naming names, giving us information about legislation. And we are seeing a cutting-edge metamorphosis that people, the readership, are becoming educated on what those chevra are doing in Albany, what they're doing in City Hall. For tens of years, they've been able to have the run of the land and nobody was holding them accountable, and that is changing. And I must say that it's a bit of a dynamic duo, because it's not only changing because of the Jewish press, but it's also changing because we're back on the air for this last half a year, and we've exposed many pieces of legislation, and we've expressed and explained the dangers of this legislation, and we've named names of the people who are doing these legislative things. And in tandem with that, I want to commend people to, I really want to say that the Jewish press, we might disagree over the years with some of their advertisements, we might disagree with some of their philosophy, disagree ahim, disagree aher. The Re'ezon de'etra, which I believe is the fuel, the spiritual fuel that allows me to exist, is what Rabbi Yehuda Chassid says in Sefer Hasidim. If a person picks up a mitzvah that is being ignored by the Roiv Minyan and Binyan of Klal Yisrael, and they choose to elevate this mitzvah, Noitel Schar Keneged Kulam. The person, it's spiritual arbitrage. Do you know what arbitrage is? Arbitrage is when you find a certain thing, in a commodity in one country or in one location that has a very different value in another location. So you can buy it cheap in one location and sell it expensive in another location. That's arbitrage. Spiritual arbitrage is when you take a mitzvah, Shedash Acherim Be'ikveihem, Ekiv Tishmun, people who trample on a mitzvah. What are we going to change? The marriage is a fartika thing. We can't balavatava with the transgender. This is the biggest fire sale of mitzvahs, of zchusim that you can have. Buy in now while it's low. Be from the Asar Rishonim who appreciate these articles in the Jewish press, who appreciate what this radio program is doing, because we're educating the consumer. And therefore, I want to give a special thanks to the administration of the Jewish press. On page 40 in the Jewish press this very week. This is the article I'm holding up on page 24 of Devorah Weissman. She speaks about what's happening in England, and it's mamish kedai to read this, because it's in the movie theaters in the 1960s, they used to show the coming attractions. This is the coming attractions, Chas v'Sholom, that's coming to America, to a city near to you. The same Chazarai. Now here's another thing, page 40, a full-page article. How will you vote? Simcha Eichenstein. Will you vote? Listen to a title that the Jewish press put in. Will you vote for it or against it? And a whole page article. My yarmulke is off to the Jewish press. I have such hakaras hatov to them. They're going where nobody has gone before. At this late stage of the Gvalden culture, and they're naming names, and they're making it personal. And by doing this, they're engaging the public. And this is really fascinating. And I want to say this. It is to the detriment, the embarrassment of the ultra Haredi newspapers, the Yid, the Allgemeine Journal, the Yated, and Hamadia, and all the other Johnny-come-lately Haredi quote-unquote publications. You would never see articles like the articles that are appearing under the modern Orthodox administration of the Jewish press. And they're noitel schar keneged kulam, and I hope that they will embarrass and goad just by their state of being, the fact that they're giving this information day after day, week after week, month after month, creating an educated consumership. I hope and pray that others in the Haredi world of journalism will belatedly pick up the cudgels and start to contribute as well to this Kvod Shemayim. This is Yehuda Levin, and the program is Levin at 11, heard each and every week on WSNR 620 AM radio, and hopefully this is the beginning of something new where we're going to archive the programs, and they're going to appear hopefully in video and every week, so that we can get it out to the greatest tzibur of Torah. And in former years we had a tremendous listenership. Many people do not know about our program, because although it's on a great time, Thursday night, 11 o'clock at night, when people are going shopping, they're in the cars, or wives and young ladies are preparing the Shabbos foods. But the fact of the matter is that Zev Brenner's Jewish programming ends at 10 o'clock. My program doesn't begin until an hour later, from 11 to 12, and in between there's a Christian program. So many people do not know that this program exists, and therefore I'm urging you once again, because many new people are going to hear and see this program this week for the first time. So welcome aboard, Baruch haba, and I would like you to be a shutuf in the Avodas HaKodesh I'm doing. Moreover, Rabbi side, covet I'm not getting for this. Money I'm not making on this. For the last half a year, I make very little money, and I've taken every penny out of my own pocket on credit cards to do this program. Why? Because the first time I met Rav Avigdor Miller, the very first time, and I've mentioned this on the program before, he told me the very first time I had a fly to New Hampshire in 1978, December, I had to fly my first mission to Concord, New Hampshire, to meet with the outgoing governor, to ask him, with a group of non-Jews, to ask him to start the first morality organization. And I asked Reb Miller, I have to go. I was shocked. Yes, you have to go. I said, do I have to pay for it also? He said, 1 minute. And he went upstairs. He took, how much is the ticket? In those days, it was $110 to fly on People's Express. You could fly the same day. There was no security. You could just walk in and fly. You didn't even have to show ID. So he definitely gave me $55. What did the man show me? I didn't understand until I was 40 years old. He showed me, Yehuda, I'm giving you a job assignment. And if nobody's doing it, you still have to do it. I was lonely when I was doing it. And now I'm handing off the baton to you and to a handful of others, Jews for Morality. And you'll know, if nobody gives you money, you got to do it yourself. When this radio came along, it was an opportunity. And now we're moving on to the next shlav with the videoing and getting this out to the greater tzibur. And I hope and pray that Hashem will just give me to be able to cover this. So I should be able to continue to do this work. Now we get on to David Lichtenstein in the remaining moments, and we might not be able to get to the whole thing. Let me read you an email that I sent to David Lichtenstein in the aftermath of the program that he put together with me a week ago on Thursday. He interviewed me for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I had no idea he was putting another person on his program. I didn't ask him, he didn't volunteer. He put on a fellow named Rabbi Chaim Rappaport from across the pond, a Lubavitcher with the King's English accent. And Talmud Chacham, no question about it. Very controversial because Rabbi Rappaport wrote a book about authentic orthodoxy and homosexuality, a new approach, which takes leave and departs from the attitude that Klal Yisrael has had for many, many, many centuries. We'll discuss that. But David Lichtenstein is a lib in many areas. He's a progressive. He picks up the terminologies and the arguments of the liberals, and I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to break it down for you so you're going to see the sakana and the danger. But he's doing something very dangerous in this case. And like they say in Yiddish, nish by motya, not by me. You're not going to take my work of 40 years and try to use it somehow by slicing it and dicing it and editing it and making a chayzik of it and disparaging it. You're not going to make an Amalek-like careerus of the Amalek were the first ones that they called off the hot roischem that everybody was afraid, as the Chazal say, to jump into the water. And I'm going to show it to you. So anyhow, what David did is he invited me on, 1 hour and a quarter, and during that tape, I asked him 3 times, let the Olim hear the whole tape, David. He says, at the end, he said to me, I can't do the whole tape because my whole program is a little more than 1 hour. So he said, but Yehuda, what I'll do is, I will take our entire tape, unedited, and I will put it as a link at the end of my headlines program that whoever wants to hear the back and forth that we had, b'chol pratev v'dikdukel, with all of its facets, and they will be able to judge for themselves. And I was very zufrieden. And I thought that David Lichtenstein is a man of his word, and he's going to do that. And much to my consternation, he has now backed out on this. So, I want to tell you, I'm going to read you an email that I sent to him, which I hope he received. Davidl Neira Yoya, very disappointed and surprised at the extent of your thin skin. A, so I compared you to Shmuley Bateach Light and referenced your 3 times Hillary and Bill Jewish money-wasting debacles when you wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars of Klal Yisrael's money for that couple that even a lot of Americans find absolutely outrageous, ultra-liberals, feh. David, boo-hoo. Frankly, so what? Why are you so fearful of keeping your commitment made to me without threats or coercion? You told me you would put up an unedited version in links at the end of the program that we did, which is program 170 or something like that for the week, for this past week. This commitment was given, David, at the very end of the tape, after all of my terrible quote-unquote ad hominem attacks on you. In other words, the person who he had called me up to invite me on the program. I called the person back and I said, listen, Benny, what's going on here? So he got in touch with David, and David says, listen, he had ad hominem attacks. He compared me unfavorably with Shmuley Batayach. It's terrible. How could I have done such a thing, David? David, I feel terrible. I know you can't sleep at night. And he mentioned that I raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, squeezed monies that could have gone to yeshivas, to kollalim, to headline radio for Pirsum of Torah. I could have bought with those hundreds of thousands of dollars many books and given out headline books in all the yeshivas. And instead it was wasted on people being goaded into taking pictures in Hillary in Lakewood, smiling with Hillary at the fireplace for just $2,000, a Grace Mitzia, with that trumpet. You understand? Anyhow, this commitment was given at the very end of my taping with you, David. If you already knew the terrible things that I said, is that really the reason, David, that you're not letting the Olim hear the tape so that they could be educated and make a decision as to who won the debate and who is answering all your non sequiturs and all of your shibboleths and all of your exaggerations? Shame, shame, David, David. It's a pasnisht. Methinks you are far more concerned about the actual content of the debate. You're not concerned if I called you that you're similar to Shmuley Batayach, or shame on you that you raised money for Hillary and Bill on 3 separate times, and that you had Menachem Genak on your headlines program to be matzdik at this late stage, shortly before the Trump-Hillary election. You did a program having Genak on the program, Rabbi Genak, the Rav HaMachshir, the Sarah Machshir of America, OU, giving a hefter on Hillary Clinton. And of course, you don't know their relationship. Let me tell you as an aside. You know what happened to Menachem Genak? Listen to Hashem has a sense of humor. Once Genak was on the receiving line, that means they were waiting to say Shalom Aleichem to Hillary Clinton. Because Genak has ongoing letters that he wrote to Bill Clinton and a ganze book or whatever it is. They're very close. And Genak was already counting the days that he would be sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom as a guest of Hillary and Billary. And never, I'm sorry, Genak, if Genak, it never happened. You're stuck in New Jersey, in your shul. You couldn't get that White House invite. I don't know if Trump is giving it to you. So you know what happened? Hillary Clinton, who knows Menachem Genak, is an Orthodox rabbi for years. You know what she did? She ran over to him on the receiving line, and they had them given a hug or a kush or something like that. You understand the bezoyin? Hashem was trying to tell Menachem Genak something with all this chanifa, but I don't think David picked up on it. But that's just to decide. That's Hashem has a sense of humor. Anyhow, I think you're more concerned about the content, and that's why we're going to go over the content of it. You fawned over Chaim Rappaport, never even informing me he would be on, because if you told me Chaim Rappaport, I know a little that he's a progressive and a lib in certain things, although far more sophisticated than you, as I'll discuss. So I might have gone onto the internet. And if I would have gone onto the internet before the program, I would have referenced it. I would have said, you know, you gave a whole introduction to Chaim Rappaport, a true Talmud Chacham, yes, and an author of a book on Mishkav Zachar and Orthodoxy, yes, but you didn't mention that Chaim Rappaport is a Maggid Shir who comes in once or twice a year for a week, and he gives shiurim at Chayvevei Torah, Avi Weiss's disgrace, that you yourself had debates with Linzer, the Rosh Yeshiva, etc., etc., but you didn't tell this to the people, that they should know just how upgefahren Rabbi Chaim Rappaport is. That you didn't tell people, David. You didn't tell me. No. Listen, I'm satisfied with every word that I said, and every word that you said. It doesn't need any editing. You're violating your freely given word. I urge you to cut your losses, David. This has to be responded to. Our full debate will probably, if publicized, pretty much end this unpleasant temporary contention that me and you are having. I told Benny I would be stark with you when he contacted me. I said, if I'm coming in your program, I'm going to tell it like it is. Because I'm not playing games here. And he said, that's fine. The same way I dealt in my debate with Shmuley Batayach on the Alan Combs program. The second time around, when I got his measure the first time, he beat me in a debate. It's one of the only times something like this happened. The second time, it was supposed to be a 3-hour radio debate. Guess who walked out after 2 hours with Shmuley B'Teach? So Shmuley B'Teach couldn't take the heat in the kitchen, he left. And your response was to slice and dice what I say and not to give me a chance to cut out all my responses to you. That's not nice. But it's not a personal thing with me. I am the product, as I told you, I'm an automaton, a robot, programmed by Rabbi Yehuda Levin and many Gedolei Yisrael. To Rabbi Moshe Sternbuch, to Rabbi Moshe Halberstam, to Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, to the Kasher V'Rov, to Rabbi Shmuel Feivelson, to Rabbi Teitz, Olav HaSholem, Zechroinu Levrocha, to the Deborah Tzina Rav, the Sha'arim Metzion HaMalacha, Rav Avram Leitner from Wiensburg. I had shimish by all of these people. In this prat, this is my job assignment, and you're making chayzik of it. You're making chayzik the implications, and that's what we're going to show tonight. And if we don't have enough time tonight, we're going to go into a round 2 next week, and we're going to explain it to the Olam. So listen, David, if it's too hot, Ziskite, it's too hot for you, take your marbles, leave the playground, and go home, David. But don't slice and dice. Don't be immoral. Don't be dishonest. Hopefully you wouldn't do such a thing in business. Why should you do such a thing in Torah Hashkafa? An educated community and consumership is best for all of us. Your idea should rise or fall on an unedited, unabridged, in-your-face machlokes. And there were many things I said that were hashkafadik, had nothing to do with boo-hoo-hoo, Hillary Clinton, the Shmuley B'Teich, which took approximately 30 seconds. So be honest. Nothing to do with attacking you. It's because you lost the debate. And you were saying things that weren't seicheldik. I hope, but at this point I still have to be persuaded, you won't use your various resources to chas v'sholem attack me in a far more personal manner. Right now we have a debate on Milchamta Shel Torah. It's hot under the collar, it's hot and heavy, but we're still acquaintances for 50 years. And for my part, we can go on to be acquaintances for the next 50 years. And we had a disagreement, a Torah disagreement. If you let me get out the facts, we're even. If chas v'sholem you're so thin-skinned that you decide you have to take it down, further and get very personal, no, you can do what you want, but I don't advise it. I don't think a Kiddush Hashem will come out of it. Now, when people call me a Meshigana, a pro-gay, or this or that, and they do, there's a whole chelek of Klal Yisrael, I laugh at it. I revel in it. I'm very cavalier about it, David. You see my skin? It's not thin skin. If you're in this game and you're a radio host and you want to say opinions, you have to understand you're not going to please all the people all the time. So what do you care so much? Why aren't you wearing your progressiveness and your lib? When I called you a lib, that hurts you that I called you a lib. You are a lib in certain things. I'm going to prove it tonight and next week. So if you are, what are you so concerned? Wear it proudly. What do you want if I'm saying the lib emperor has no clothes? You say, yeah, I'm wrapping myself in superior bein adam lechaveiroi. Yehuda Levin, you and all your right-wing fanatic Haredis, you're not sensitive to the suffering of the poor Mishkevei Zacha, which I will address. And I am. I'm far superior. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be a lib. You use all the progressive talking points. Socially, we know when it's been proven. Nothing's been proven. Nothing socially. It's all mishigassen. But we'll get to it. I offered you, and I'm making a public offer now to David Lichtenstein. Rabbi Say, mark this down your calendars. I'm challenging David Lichtenstein to a debate in front of a live audience that will be fully videoed, just me and him. Don't hide behind the kapota of Chaim Rappaport. Don't hide behind your tzeves, your crew that does Mari McCoy work for you. And let me tell you how we're going to do the debate, if you're man enough to do it. It'll be 1 or 2 minutes me, 1 or 2 minutes you. You don't have any more time than I have. You don't have any less time. We have a moderator like somebody from the Jewish Press or the Lakewood Scoop or any other Parva institution, media institution. Come on to me with Shimon Gifter, whatever you want. You come on and let the Olam hear an unexpunged, unedited, not where you're taking control. You understand? Because you're footing the bill. and you're slicing and dicing, not Yehuda Levin. Chaptus to go to with Yehuda Levin. He's not a Balgaiva, he's a Shmata Yehuda Levin. But the Torah and the Hashkafa that Yehuda Levin imbibed over 40 years from Gedolei Yisrael, that's what you were making chayzik of. That can't go. So you've got an open invitation, David. Let's see if you can respond. Put that in your headlines and smoke it. Nothing personal, Z-Skype. This is just the way it is. Basically, we have approximately 10 to 12 minutes. So we're not going to be able to do the whole thing. Unless we do the whole thing, we'll see, and maybe we'll play it at a different time, or maybe whatever. But let's now hear exactly how the interview went with David. And I'll show you exactly, so you'll get an education, my dear listenership and viewership. You'll get of how to be a snarky, snaky, slice and dice interviewer to make your own points. And I'll fill you in on what else was said to him at each point. So let's go.
Levin from New York City, and I've known him for many years. Rabbi Yehuda has been one of the strongest advocates against gay rights, etc. And he's been a Talmud. He was close to Rabbi Levin and many other Gedalim. He also has a show on 6:20 a.m. on Thursday evening at 11 p.m. It's called Levin at 11. You can't forget that very catchy name. So welcome, Rabbi Yehuda.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you, David.
So, Rabbi Levin, what would you say to the following story? A boy calls, actually, well, he leaves a message, and he says he wants to speak to me, and he about a personal thing that he's not comfortable speaking about, but he feels that since he's read some of my books, or he felt that he would have an ear, a sympathetic ear. So I don't have a lot of time in my life. So I said the only two times, usually it's only Sunday that I have any time at all. So I made up an appointment. He came over and he said, let's take a walk. So I walked with him. He said he came back from a big yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael a little while ago, and he has zero attraction to the opposite gender. He said since he's a child. And I realized he actually told me when he left the message that it was because of that fish. That's why I agreed to. And he said he has zero attraction to the opposite gender. And he's been to a psychologist, and the guy said, look, you know, what can I tell you? This is how you wire. And he said to the point, he said that if he sees a member of the opposite gender totally without, disrobed, it's like looking at a cat walking in the street. It's nothing to him. But he does have a strong attraction. His attraction is to the same gender. So he said, you know, I said, you're not thinking of dating. He says, no. He says, I know enough to know that it would be a big obstacle to the girl. But he says, I'm marooned to a life of just loneliness and celibacy. And he said, I don't understand to it hashkafically how to deal with it on a practical level, how to deal with it emotionally. And he said, could you help me deal with this? How would you respond to somebody like this?
I'm not God. I didn't create people with cancer. I didn't create people with all kinds of impediments. I didn't create people who want underage children. I didn't create people, like the Gemara speaks about, the fellow who wanted to adulterize somebody, and there's a discussion in the Gemara if he's allowed to pass through the window. So, right? And he should just be able to look at the lady, because the doctors say if not, he's going to get sick, he's going to die, whatever it is. So first of all, I would show some humility, and I wouldn't try to put myself emotionally just and say the quick fix stuff. I mean, I like that. I would tell him, Tzaddik Zizkai to a Ben Torah. Look at what that Gemara says. What does that Gemara mean to us? That if a guy says I'm going to die and the doctor says he's going to die, if he doesn't see a Penuya walking in front of his window, we say he should drop dead, and we don't go along with it.
Okay, so when we just Googled you right before we started, and it says gay people are the cause for earthquakes.
Okay, let's stop. Let's not waste it.
Rabbi, here comes the first interruption. I'll explain to you how it works. He left out now many minutes of what we discussed before he got to the second stage. He told me a story about a bacher, and And he said, would you advise somebody to get married? I said, first of all, I have humility. I don't know the answers. It's above my pay grade. I'm an expert in legislation, in the movement, in the social aspect. But to counsel a particular person who's having taivas, the Yetzaharas, and what to do and how to do, he should go to Reb Matis Yehuda Solomon. He should go to a former psychologist. He should go to other Gedolei Yisrael. That was the first thing I said. That doesn't appear there. Then I said as follows. You want to exchange stories? I've got a one-upmanship story on you, David. I have a call from a Ben Torah, and he tells me he's married. And he's the exact same Mishkav Zocher. He's married. And he was merames that he has a child. And he's merames that as painful it is to him, he didn't have the child from immaculate conception, he has it with a wife. And he told me that whenever it comes time, that time of the month, to be with his Rebbetzin, he feels very terrible. And he told me that he sits at a Shabbos table and he sees his brother-in-law, and he has a Yetzirah for his brother-in-law. And he asked me, he tells me, why did he call me? Because Levin, you got to be much more sympathetic to what we're doing. And he called me many times afterwards. We would talk every few months. He was very careful not to tell me his identity. And I did sympathize with him. I did feel his pain. And I told him, you're a tzaddik gomor because you're standing up and you're doing. So now I told Lichtenstein, I don't know if you could just tell all of them not to get married. Is it better for this guy, as painful as it is, instead of sitting in the basement alone and perhaps eventually looking at male pornography and eventually hooking up with these these ersatz Orthodox organizations that they have, or going to socialize at Beit Simchat Torah, which now has a Lakewood guy who's a poisik for them or something, an oisrof who appeared in Zebrenner's program. Isn't it better for this guy to be married and to be in pain? And so far he hasn't done a Mishkav Zocher thing, and he actually was Makayim Mechelika Pru Revu. David Lichtenstein knows the answer to everything. I don't know the answer. Shouldn't that kind of a thing have appeared in this program? Isn't that an important thing to say? Why did David cut it out? And then he jumps to the very next thing. So let's continue.
You're talking about the gays who advocate for that we should have gay rights and make a whole Torah. That's what you mean?
No. Wait a second, slow. You don't even got to get into the advocates. Listen carefully. In Haiti, there was an earthquake that caused 300,000 people or something like that to die within the last 10 years. And the Christian stations, they're still raising money for the impoverished nations. The church. Haiti is attached to the Dominican Republic. It's one island.
Correct.
Fascinating statistics that the United Nations published that for several hundreds of years, natural disasters to Haiti were tenfold as severe than to the Dominican Republic, which is in the same island mass. It's Loyalty Super. Elamite, some Catholic group came up on the internet. I found the site, and they said, you know the difference? The difference is that the United Nations tells us that in our hemisphere and maybe in the world, the biggest per capita incidence of homosexual practice is in Haiti, not the Dominican Republic. That's much less. And guess what? We see a kiyum of the 6th payment of the Yerushalmi Brachas that says, I think on the pasuk, maybe I'm misquoting the pasuk, the Gemara gives several reasons the Yerushalmi for earthquakes, and it says like this. Let me share the lashon with you. I don't wait consecutive translation. Everybody should understand. You have shaken your male member in a place it doesn't belong. I will shake the world. Now ask me your question again about that headline, please.
So, Rabbi Levin, what you're suggesting is that when bad things happen in the world, right, we could go around and look for Gemaras that explain it. Is that fair to say? So for example, Rabbi Levin, when you have an accident, Rabbi Yehuda, if you have an Erlich person who had an accident and something terrible happened to him, I'll serve you 6 Gemaras that explain why bad things happen to people. I can start rattling up. So we should say, this person, he looks like a very Erlich person, but we'll find in the Gemara reasons that maybe terrible things are happening in his family that we don't know, and that's why these bad things happen. So if you advocate that, that's fine. I just want to know if you do it consistently across the board in the Furman community as well. I personally don't level of...
Moreover, Rabbi said, did you hear that little click? It stopped. He cut out my whole response, and then he's saying the same thing again. I personally think that was called slicing and dicing. Now I want to tell you what I said to him, but we're running out of time. So I want to tell you what I said. I got the impression that he was implying to me, because he spoke about a traffic accident for a family member, and of course you know that my nephew suffered, he passed away with his collar in a traffic accident. I don't know if David had that in mind, but it's very coincidental that he's getting hot under the collar, he's giving this mashal. But let me tell you what I answered him. I said, it's very interesting, because I said, you know, I have a nephew who just passed away. It's just a shleishim. And you know what? His brother passed away 2 years before. And you know what I heard him say in Darkei Torah Yeshiva when he was masked with his brother? You know what he said? He said the Rambam that says if a tragedy happens and a person just says it's happenstance, that's akzarius stuff. This he doesn't put in Lichtenstein that I said this. You understand? Because I was showing up that his liberal thing, oh, you're going around describing? Yes, we don't say definitively because God multitasks. But when you have an open Yerushalmi that says one of the 3 reasons it gives for earthquakes, and I show you the statistics with Haiti, Dominican Republic, you make litzonis. Litzonis doesn't mean jokes. It doesn't mean jokes. Litzonis means when you water something down, you make it not serious. That's the lates that the scripture talks about. David, you're a lates. You don't reckon with Yerushalmi. You'll say, I could quote this Gemara with Churban and that Gemara. You've got hashkafic problems. Shame on you. And the Olam of Lakewood should be sending him messages and stop talking to him with such derech eretz. I heard somebody go, David, maybe this, you know, I didn't exactly that. Stop being mechabed. The guy is talking stuff which is embarrassing for anybody who's a Beis Medrash bach or a high school bach with a little hashkafa. Do we know this is the only reason that happened in Haiti? No. But what are you talking about? For Yoram Lang, Gedolim, you would say, for lack of Chil Shabbos, this is happening. Lack of this is happening. This is something we have to reckon sich with. It's not schwarz or weiß, but lichshesh mi boy. We have to be afraid. We will continue this in our next program, Thursday evening, and hopefully we'll be on the video. I can be contacted at rabbilevin@gmail.com. And my open challenge to David Lichtenstein, let's come out to Lakewood and let's have it out in front of an Olam HaTorah. 2 minutes you, 2 minutes me, we'll go back and forth, and we'll see, let the Olam make an educated decision. Until then, have a wonderful Kabbalah Torah, a good Shabbos, and a good Talmud.